This is another very important video, so stick with me. But first, I will address this because I already know it's going to be in the comments. I was in a car accident, and no, I don't remember how it happened. But anyways, y'all already know I gotta say something about this Trump situation because he plays an extremely vital role in this movie that we're living. As I mentioned to y'all several times before, he actually believes in free will, not the coercion that we're currently going through. Also, as I stated before, I believe he will be the one to set off the first trumpet of the apocalypse. Revelations 8:7. The first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail, fire mixed with blood, and it was hurled down to earth. A third of the earth was burnt up, a third of the trees was burnt up, and all the green grass was burnt up. This is the war in heaven that's going to manifest here when the dimensions merge. So notice that hell and fire, which are complete opposites, right? The cold is low frequency, which will be the dragons and its creations. The heat is high frequency, which will be the grays and its creations, which are heavenly beings. That is called the Elohim. So this happens when the Skynet opens, which is the firmament. It's often referred to as the veil being lifted. The moment everyone can't deny us quote-unquote conspiracy theorists was right the whole time, but it'll be too late for them by then. So I'm about to share a clip of this video which shows the real Mike Pompeo and Donald Trump being notified that they initiated a live exercise without telling them. And it's being led by Alex Azar because he feared the ability of Trump and Pompeo hindering his plans.
So we were alerted by some discussions that Dr. Redfield, the director of the CDC, had with Chinese colleagues on January 3rd. It's since been known that there may have been cases in December, not that we were alerted in December.
Mr. President, the other question I have for you.
Excuse me, we'll do it in a second. Mike, yes.
May I just have one more thing? There's been some discussion about China and what they knew and when they knew it, and I've been very critical. We need to know immediately. The world is entitled to know. The Chinese government was the first to know of this risk to the world, and that puts a special obligation to make sure that data gets to our scientists, our professionals. This is not about retribution. This matters going forward. We're in a live exercise here to get this right. We need to make sure that even today, the data sets that are available to every country, including data sets that are available to the Chinese Communist Party, are made available to the whole world. It's an imperative to keep people safe.
And this is the reason I said the real Mike Pompeo, because somehow he managed to lose 90 pounds in 6 months without surgery, without nutrition counseling, or without a personal trainer. If that's not suspicious, I don't know what is. If y'all haven't noticed, the same thing that happens to celebrities will happen to high-ranking officials also if they don't comply with their agenda. Here's Alex Azar. Was there not a Tsar Alexander that started wars everywhere? This is history repeating itself. So do y'all remember when Trump was downplaying the situation in the very beginning by saying he's an alarmist, everything's under control, and his most famous line is just one person coming from China? Also note, it says the Trump administration wasn't planning on declaring a public health emergency. I know it may not sound like a lot, but as long as he delayed it, he literally saved millions of people with all the delays he created in their plan. Because once again, he believes in free will, not the coercion, because they have to face their karma for that. So eventually, Alex Azar went ahead and issued the public health emergency. This forced Trump to issue a national emergency. When he issued a national emergency, he gave up all of his power to FEMA. This is why immediately after he declares a national prayer day, because he knows the power of manifestation, and he knew he lost all control over the situation. So that was his final attempt for us to use our power to prevent this whole thing from happening. So FEMA isn't what we think it is. We all should have known that when we seen them coffins all around the country. And it was for this particular reason for what they're planning right now. FEMA was created in a series of executive orders. A presidential executive order, whether constitutional or not, becomes law simply by its publication in the Federal Registry. Congress is bypassed. Executive Order 12148 created a Federal Emergency Management Agency that is to interface with the Department of Defense and the Civil Defense Planning and Funding. An emergency czar will be appointed. So back to this guy, Alex Azar. He is the one that initiated a public health emergency, which forced Trump to issue a national emergency, which led to him losing power and giving it all to FEMA. So he's the one that initiated the pandemic. And what makes this so obvious is his name. He is a czar, right? And he issued the emergency. Not only that, he was the first chairman of the White House House Sauce 19 task force for only 1 month, meaning he only came in to initiate the war. So back to the executive orders. EO number 12656. This is what allowed the lockdowns and gives them the right to federalize the National Guard to seal all borders and take control of U.S. airspace and all ports of entry. Allows the takeover of all modes of transportation and control of highways and seaports. Allows them to seize and control communications media. Y'all see what's happening on TV and social media. Allows to take over all electrical power, gas, petroleum, fuels, and minerals. Their first test was the gas prices. Y'all remember that, right? Allows them to take over all food resources and farms. We see GMO everything. Allows them to mobilize civilians to work brigades. That sounds like slavery to me. Allows them to take over all health, education, and welfare functions. That is clearly happening right now. Designate the Postmaster General to operate a national registration of all persons. That was the census that went out a few years ago during the lockdowns. Allows them to take over all airports, aircraft, and commercial aircraft. Allows the Housing and Finance Authority to relocate communities, build new housing with public funds, designate areas to be abandoned, and establish new locations for populations. So for instance, let's say a big old fire just happened somewhere. This is exactly what they are talking about. This is why rent has been increasing everywhere, no matter where you at or what kind of place you have. They're trying to get you out on the streets so they have more authority over you to place you in these specific communities. So it'll be easier for them to control. Allows them to take over railroads, inland waterways, and public storage facilities. All executive orders into effect in times of increased international tensions and economic and financial crisis. Now you see exactly why I always talk about the stock market, because it's literally our lifeline. All those orders are going into effect at one time. All they was doing before was practicing it at different times. The pandemic before the real pandemic, which is World War III, the apocalypse, the rapture. So when all executive orders is in effect, they have the authority to institute industrial support to establish judicial and legislative liaison to control all aliens, to operate penal and correctional institutions. And what I told y'all before, we are the aliens. We are alien because they believe they own our bodies. This is why they are called vessels, because everything is ships. So clearly, FEMA been running the show for the last few years. This is why on Biden's first day, he signs executive orders to reverse Trump's policies, because Trump was giving back power to the Republic. He did this in order to give power to the WHO, which will be their God, corporation-wise. Now let me explain. I want to show you how they already building a new world order right now, and we just didn't notice. As y'all can see, the advisor, this was the guy that was pointed right below the king. As y'all can see, the only way you get this position is by your loyalty and talent, or inherited by their fathers. Like I always tell y'all, all these people be in the same family, doing the same thing. For instance, this was a Pfizer, a single person. But this is when the straw man comes in. They trick the whole world to think they're a corporation. So they're using umbrella corporation as a hierarchy. So as y'all can see on the bottom, it shows the jurisdictions: judiciary, treasury, war, interior, agriculture, and general executives, being the smaller companies. So if y'all didn't watch my recent video, this is called very important because it is. You can correlate that video with this one. But basically, we hear about the World Health Organization taking sovereignty, right? World Health Organization will be the king, and the Pfizer is obviously Pfizer. Just in case you haven't noticed, a lot of things was brought to you by Pfizer on TV. Y'all know what station I'm talking about. Do some research. So I'm sure most of us seen Resident Evil before, and we all know the Umbrella Corporation is what caused a apocalypse to happen, right? Well, we just took it wrong, and they just really meant an umbrella of corporations. But that's just something to think about. But anyways, y'all know how to keep it. Y'all be gods. Peace.